everybody knows the stupid, you know, the molded packaging that always cuts you.
Yeah.
That's impossible to cut open. Like, well, why do that? And that's part of the whole like reduce side of the equation is like the type of packaging that we put things in. Like it's a lot of times it's super unnecessary.
I remember like one of the kind of influences for this show, Penn and Teller's Bullshit. They did a great episode on the recycling
Oh yeah.
and in fact we have a guest tonight. Teller, go ahead and say hi. Well, hello, happy people, and welcome to another Kitchen Sink Microscopy. I am your drunken host, Casey Rochford, and we would really appreciate it if you would like and share, and there's one other thing. Oh yeah, subscribe. Please do that, especially that.
Yes.
Yes.
Very important. And I'm Eric Rosenblatt. And together, Casey and I, we write our own music and we collaborate on music that we write together or write and then rewrite. And so, yeah, we typically have an original song at the end of every episode. Maybe not. I mean, it'll be a song that we did, but you might have heard it before. Maybe you haven't, but stick around and listen to it. So Casey, what should we talk about today?
Well, speaking of writing and rewriting or killing and re-killing, recycling, like, is it actually doing any good? Or should we just be cycling?
Well, yeah, that's a really interesting topic. And this kind of like ties in with the previous one that we did about organic foods, where there's a lot of myths and people believe that, you know, oh, you just toss things into this magic box and it helps the environment, which is completely not true. Like there's so many things about recycling that are not good. Like my personal belief is there's really only two things that need to be recycled, or that it actually makes sense to recycle: glass and metals. Like those are it. You know, especially aluminum and things that can be infinitely reused over and over and over again. And you know, like glass, of course, same thing. And both are very useful. So that makes sense to me. If you look at the amount of resources and energy that go into harvesting sand and making glass and all that, and harvesting, you know, digging bauxite out of the ground and turning it into aluminum, it's like huge amounts of resources versus just melting down cans and turning them back into other cans again. Those two things do make sense. But all the other stuff really doesn't, like plastic and paper and cardboard and all that. It's like, it's kind of a farce. All the, like in the US, all the plastic that people put in those bins mostly just get shipped off to other countries who just throw it into the water. Like they don't really recycle it. It doesn't really happen. Paper doesn't even make any sense to recycle because it, like, we need to grow trees, and the more trees we grow, the better it is. So recycling paper cuts down on the need to grow trees. Also, the amount of garbage that like transporting all this stuff to be recycled, and all the, you know, industrial processes that happen, all the chemicals that are used, energy consumption to turn cardboard and paper back into something again, all the bleach and everything that has to go through it. Like, you're better off
just because we recycle paper doesn't mean we have to stop planting trees, though. I mean,
true,
right?
True. but the consumption of paper and cardboard and stuff does encourage more tree planting. So I think that would be that's.
But it's kind of like we just talked about in the last episode, though. Like, I mean, that's like saying, "Oh, we're saving the cows by slaughtering them and raising more to slaughter." It's like you're just basically like recycling their lifespans. Like supplanting them with another
Well,
expandable youth.
that's true. Like in the case of
Expendable, not expandable.
yeah, in the case of paper products, I think it's like my point is that the processes involved in turning the recyclable materials back into usable materials is a net negative in terms of environmental impact, that we're better off just putting it in a landfill and letting the earth do its thing because it's biodegradable. Like paper and cardboard and stuff eventually will just turn to dirt,
Mm,
and we can just keep harvesting new trees and go that way instead of having to have this whole entire intermediate process that doesn't really yield a better product, and honestly just uses a lot more energy and chemicals and transportation that doesn't need to happen. Like,
yeah,
nah, just put it in the landfill, it'll be fine. Plastic, on
yeah,
the other hand, that one's an iffy one. That's tricky. I think maybe going in the direction of using particular types of plastic would be good. Like styrene, bad, bad, bad. Like we shouldn't be using any kind of styrene anything. There's a lot better materials that can actually be reused. And I guess in a way, I think rather than just putting stuff in the magic box for the dude to come and pick up and magically
yeah,
help the
yeah.
environment, we need to take it upon ourselves to reuse stuff. Like that's part of the whole
Mm.
reduce, reuse, recycle. Well,
Well,
to me,
remember,
reusing is the biggest part of that. Well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
reduction.
But remember my idea about like making it happen at the point of sale. Like
Mm-hmm.
if something is packaged in plastic and that plastic can be easily opened without damaging it, then they should open it right there, hand it to you, as long as it's not like super fragile or tiny parts or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then close it and like return it to the manufacturer so they can put the next Gidget in there. Gidgets and
Which
Gazmos.
Yeah, which actually does kind of make sense because you do need it to be protected during shipping. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
being, if a container, say, well, you couldn't necessarily do this for food as easily, but for stuff, the
Right.
everybody knows the stupid, the molded packaging that
Uh,
always cuts you,
yeah.
that's impossible to cut open. Like, well, why do that? Why not have a much more sturdy package that's heavy duty? Oh, like maybe do it like they do with uh like there's some fancy milk companies around here that you buy this bottle and it's a deposit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you pay a little extra, but then when you return it, you get that back.
Yeah.
And so you could do that with packaging where it's like the packaging's more like a Pelican case or something that can last for a really long time, and you could take it home. Sure, you're going to pay that deposit, but then when you can go back to the store or ship it back to the company or whatever, probably better back to the store so the same truck can carry a lot of stuff all at once for efficiency's sake.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, you've got better packaging. You've got something that you don't have to throw away, and doesn't cut you,
Yeah.
like that'd be nice. And that's part of the whole like reduce side of the equation is like the type of packaging that we put things in. Like it's a lot of times it's super unnecessary. I've
Mm.
seen items that could easily be put in like a Ziploc bag, or a little thing that's just stapled, and they have this massive injection molded package for this little tiny thing. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why do they do that? Like,
And I've
no.
seen them move toward like plastic free
Mhm.
packaging, which is good too, like
That's step. Yeah.
because yeah, I think you'd agree that like paper products are probably better than plastic as far
Hmm.
as the environment goes,
Sure.
recycled or not. Um,
Yeah.
but like I remember like one of the kind of influences for this show, Penn and Teller's Bullshit. They did a great episode on the recycling,
Oh yeah.
and in fact we have a guest tonight. Teller, go ahead and say hi. Oh, Yeah, you don't talk. Well, just go ahead and listen, Teller, and
Yep, yep.
everybody just know that Teller is a guest on this show. Yeah,
Yep, but he has to talk for the thing system to shift over to his.
yeah. So you can't see him, but
Yeah, but he's there.
know that he's there.
Yep. But yeah, they did highlight some interesting things that and the lengths that people will go to recycle as one of them that they
And
brought up where they had like what
like
10 bins for like individual types of things
the air pollution that goes into the processing and
yeah.
everything, like that's something that most people don't even think about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
or it's not so easily quantifiable. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
one thing that I like, a good example of this kind of like a good sort of recycling process is taco time. Taco
mm,
time, almost everything is commercially compostable. Now, yes, that does mean it's not like you can put it in your own compost bin, so it's kind of half-ass in a way.
yeah,
But maybe we can get to the point where you could have your own backyard compost bin and all the packaging you get from a fast food place, you can just toss in there and it'll turn to dirt.
yeah. But I
Um,
always eat in the restaurant at taco time just so that like it does go where it needs to go, and
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
exactly.
prefer not to eat in the car anyway.
Yeah. And well, and when you eat inside too, they also have like real dishes for certain things. So they just
hmm
wash the dish off and reuse it. And
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I
Why
like,
not? Why not do that more in fast food? Like
mhm.
honestly.
Yeah. Well, like Starbucks, they have their reusable cup that you get their cup and then you can bring your own cup essentially.
Yeah.
I had a coworker that got Starbucks like every day and he'd get like two drinks and they came in these big plastic containers and he'd just throw them in the garbage. And it's
I think
like
some of them are going compostable too, right? Starbucks, some of them.
possibly and Taco Time kind of started that trend. So I
Yeah.
think more people are catching on to that, which is good.
hmm
I mean, there's still places that use styrofoam packaging. That's
Oh
still a thing,
wow.
which is yeah,
Mm.
not necessarily big companies, but small companies still a lot of times will do that, which is really bad.
Packing
Styrofoam.
peanuts.
Yeah. Well, and there's packing peanuts that are made of like corn or rice or something. So as soon as they
Mm.
get wet, they just turn to a sludge that that'll disappear. Um, and that's a good idea, although it maybe not. If your package gets wet, then you're pulling it out from the goo.
Right.
So there's pros and cons there, but their heart's in the right place, and I think
hmm
that's a step in the right direction. And we're in an intermediate phase right now.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of progress that can be made, but we got to do some things and try it out and try to improve things. And I
Think
think,
outside the box and get
well,
creative with new
sure.
ways of, reducing and reusing and stuff,
And that
mainly.
really comes down to changing people's hearts and minds. Really, it comes down to a cultural shift where people think more about the impact of what they're buying and getting, and then they encourage companies by choosing which company to buy from. They can encourage companies to use better packaging or less packaging and things like that,
hmm
and that's a good thing. And I think we're slowly getting there. But also, by the same kind of in the same vein, you can also individually do things yourself. I've heard of all kinds of things where people are taking plastic containers and stripping them down and turning them into 3D print fiber or filament, and things like that, and or just reusing the stuff themselves because a lot of it you can if it's not polystyrene. Um, you can definitely reuse things or even just say like a plastic bottle, use it again, just simply using something more than one time, like a grocery sack, right? If you, instead of just throwing it away, use it again for a purpose that you would otherwise have used something that you'd have to purchase new. Like back in the day when we got grocery bags all the time before that was like essentially banned in Washington State. I saved all my grocery bags and I used them
hmm
for cat litter
Yeah.
or garbage. I like the I have little garbage cans and they're
Yep.
perfect for that, and it just
Same
fits
here.
right in there.
And that counts too. Like
Yeah.
it's another use at
Hmm.
least.
And
And
that
that accounts.
alone,
Yeah.
if everybody did that, that would make a massive impact. Just
Hmm.
using something one more time, finding another use
Yeah.
for it is it would have a tremendous impact.
Yeah. Or even like the environmental impact of like hurting other animals, like the turtles getting stuck in the like 6-pack rings and stuff.
Hmm.
Like there's some, beer, and I haven't really seen it with sodas yet for some reason, but like the hard plastic clip on
Yep.
kind of things, that's okay. But like think more creatively. Like why not have like put this stuff in I don't know, like uh you could have a little like freezed sort of encased in a plastic reusable sort of thing that like you can use to like carry out
Yeah.
to the car, and it keeps it
Oh.
cold and stuff, and like you can bring that back for a deposit,
Hmm.
and
Well,
it keeps it cold on the way home and stuff.
and or even if cans were sold individually and you had your can carrier and you just click them into there and you could just keep reusing that can carrier hundreds of times,
Hmm. Hmm.
that right there would be a big deal because that would cut out. Because I was just
Oh,
thinking,
that's
like
a great idea. You could
cardboard.
do that now.
Yeah,
Like they sell individual beers all the time.
yeah.
Like especially if the store was like, okay, if you're buying six, we'll give you the 6-pack price instead of the individual price six
Hmm.
times.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. You
that would
get
be nice.
quantity discount if you're buying a bunch of them.
Hmm.
And yeah, that would be a simple thing that could be implemented right now.
Hmm.
Obviously, they'd have to be shipped to a store in some way, but you could do something like the milk carton, those milk crates.
Hmm.
Instead of the cans being like packaged in boxes or tied together with those, plastic rings, they could just be loose inside of a tight fitting crate. And then people just grab however many cans they want out of the crate and stick them onto their thing. That,
Hmm.
yeah, it could be an insulating carrier, it could just be a free carrier, it could be anything, but you could it'd be a simple thing. You purchase it one time and it'll probably last the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like that's not a
And
bad
as
idea.
far as like, individual cans are gonna slow things down as far as stocking the shelves. Well, you just invent something that like loads up a bunch of them, and you just like put it on the shelf and go, and it like
Yeah.
sticks them
Well,
all in there. Like,
it's no different than reloading a vending machine.
right.
They're all in a line and somebody throws the cans in there. You can have, like I said, a crate as well. There could be shallow
Mhm.
crates to hold like a couple stacked up and people could just reach in and grab them. It's super easy to reload. When there's an empty crate, you take it out, push the full one to the front. There you go.
Yeah.
And then the whole transportation system is like super easy at that point. And I'm sure some enterprising person would invent some kind of device that like a carrier that auto grabs 6 cans at once.
Right. Yep.
Like
Hmm.
you just pull a little lever and they open up, little
I
grabber
was
thing.
even thinking about that like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, like there you go. There's all kinds of solutions there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it
Like
really begins with the culture. I think people need to be thinking of ideas and encouraging other
opportunities
people.
for invention and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And we need to be kind of proactive about it. Like what we're doing here, coming up with ideas that could catch on and encourage
Kitchen
other
sink
people.
microscopy, saving the world yet again.
Yeah.
All in a day's work, ma'am.
The power is yours. But yeah, I
Captain
mean,
Planet.
mhm. It's, I think it's, the thing is, people are kind of lazy a lot of
Mm,
times, and it's so easy to just have your recycle bin and toss things into it and kind of just forget about it. And that's it. When,
clutter too. People
yeah,
don't like clutter, and
no,
if you set things aside to maybe reuse them someday, I can see how that gets messy. But
true. But it's like, I think the illusion of that being an actual solution, like just you put it in the bin and it saves the planet somehow, prevents people from like thinking any deeper. That
mhm,
like if recycling didn't exist, people would get creative about things. like, and
Yeah.
actually be proactive in trying to find solutions. But right now it's like, oh, you look at the labeling on stuff and you see, oh, it's like 50% post-consumer recycled cardboard. Oh, I'm gonna grab that one. Like, oh, that's helping the planet. Like, actually, probably not. So that's something to think about.
Like the need a penny, take a penny. Why don't we have that for plastic bags?
Oh yeah.
Just like, because you can like return them to a place, but like, where do they go?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Like, honestly, where do they go?
You know, that's not a bad idea too. Like, what if, say, let's take Safeway for instance, right?
Mhm.
Let's pretend it wasn't Washington State where like you have to pay extra for a bag and all this, whatever. But let's just say they had a bin. You go to Safeway, you do your shopping, you come out with like 5 grocery bags, you carry them into your house, unload them, and then you say, okay, I'll put those bags into the one bag. And then next time you go into Safeway, when you walk in, there's a bin. You just toss the pile of bags into the bin. And then
Mhm.
somebody at Safeway takes those bags and then puts them back up for people to use again.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. That like then you're just kind of, and until they start falling apart. At that point, well, maybe like 5 or 6 people have used the bag already.
I mean, they could just do that with the fucking tote bags too,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like instead of like selling them and having to remember to bring them even out of your car,
Mm-hmm.
like just have them right there with the grocery carts.
Well, absolutely, and in fact, that's there's an opportunity for marketing right there. If every store just basically gave out the bags when you buy stuff that
Mhm.
has their store logo emblazoned on it, like there you go, you got free advertising and stuff.
Mhm.
So even if somebody doesn't return it, they're going to be carrying their stuff around in like a Safeway bag all the time. So your name is getting out there.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they just return it back to the store and it gets used again
Yeah.
until it can't be used anymore. But again, like we were saying, like even one more use of a thing is very significant.
Oh yeah.
But if you could get like 10 out of it, like, whoa, that's a big deal. Then we
Yeah.
don't have to have some facility that you bring stuff to that then puts stuff on a truck that then has to go to another facility where they sort things. And then it goes on to yet another truck of sorted stuff that then processes it through, uses up a bunch of resources to then turn it back into a bag again. Like, that's totally stupid when you could just have
Yeah.
it happen right at the store.
Hmm.
It reminds me of there was oh god, I think it was Chip and Dale back in the day, like an old cartoon that I saw where they were living in a tree and these loggers came and were cutting trees down and they cut their tree down and they like went with it to the facility where the machines like start cutting all the logs and stuff. So the way the factory like they'd go out there, they'd cut the trees down, put them on a truck, bring them to this place, they'd get cut apart, chopped up into little pieces, and then ground down into sawdust, and then a machine would compress it into logs again, like fire logs basically. So it's like they already had a log, but they went to all this trouble to cut it apart and then turn it back into a log again.
Yeah.
It seems
I mean,
that's kind of how a lot of this feels.
it, recycling, when you really think about it, is like instead of throwing it away, I'm going to quasi throw it away, and magically something may or may not happen to it, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll get reused again. And, somewhere in that equation is pollution of some kind or whatever,
Yeah.
like
Well, for
effective,
sure.
effectively, you're just throwing it away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, when you account for the impact of all the different processes, that you might as well be throwing it away.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, because even just having to transport something from one place to another on a truck, that accounts for some kind of impact, right?
Mhm.
But if you could not have to transport it at all, like I was saying, just have a bin that you put the bags in into the store that you bought the stuff from when you come back, like there you go. It never
Yeah.
has to leave the store. It gets reused again and again and again as many times as
Hmm.
possible. And at that point, the store could afford to produce higher quality bags that might last even longer. Like currently, the ones you get when you pay your little deposit, those bags tend to be pretty heavy duty now.
Huh.
Like they're no longer the little flimsy bag that basically, if you have a carton of milk in there, just tears a hole in it and the whole thing catastrophically opens up. They're pretty well made. And yeah, why not just why have it like to the point? I just don't understand why they can't just do that within the store.
Yeah.
And I mean, just
Imagine,
one example that that's an idea for one thing. There's probably thousands of other applications for something like that.
yeah. Imagine standardizing refrigerators so that they're like modular and you can like pull out parts of them and like put them in your car and then load them into your grocery cart and just stick things in, like basically organize your refrigerator as you're shopping.
Oh,
Buy it, take it home. It's like still kind of cold. You can like
mhm.
make it some kind of like, insulated material. And then you just go plug it back into your refrigerator.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Especially for people who kind of consistently buy a lot of the same stuff. You could easily have a modular storage system in a fridge
Oh,
that
yeah.
like tool containers and stuff or parts bins where, they're different size bins or little dividers that you can kind of make it however you want. So if you
Mhm.
constantly buy like bigger things, you have a bigger space for those and lots of little spaces for the little things. And that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like cup holders in cars, you can easily have like, round shapes like be customizable and stuff, like a
Mm-hmm.
big soup can or a small soup can. It's still held firmly in place.
Yeah.
Not that you would refrigerate a soup can, but you know what I mean.
Well, maybe a jar of
A
something.
jar, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, that I just had this thought the other day. This is kind of an aside, I guess, a little bit of a tangent, but connected. Because you mentioned cup holders. I woke up the other day and had this thought in my head, like, wait a minute, how come in a car, cars have cup holders, typically like in the console up front. Why isn't there a duct that runs from your heating cooling system that goes under that area that you can open and
Hmm.
say like, okay, I want to keep my drink cool. I have the AC already running. Why not pass some of that cold air underneath your cup
Hmm.
holders to keep stuff cool or
Damn.
warm, right? If it's
Yeah.
want to keep it hot, like
Oh, yeah.
it's a cold day, you want to keep your coffee warm, it auto warms it. Like
You
just use the
Rakashina.
energy you're already using and direct it to help that.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a
that's
great idea.
yeah, like it's so easy. Like why
God,
why isn't that done? A
wow, this is like an
little,
episode of Shark Tank right here.
I know exactly. Yeah. The difference here is that I'm not going to patent this idea. This is an open source idea.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The
car
modular
companies.
refrigerator too. I mean, like, I'd almost want to build that for myself. Like,
Yeah,
that's an awesome idea, I think.
it
Because
is because
like
think about it.
organizing the fridge is like a pain in the ass, and you almost always have to throw shit away anyway. So why not like do that before you go,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you need to replace
Well,
that, so
you,
you
you know
put it
why
on
you
your list.
usually have to throw shit away is because typically shit gets buried in the back
Yeah,
because of the
yeah,
poor organization that you
hmm,
can achieve in a refrigerator. If it were
yep,
modular, like let's say you buy a refrigerator and it's kind of like one of those tool chests. It just comes with a ton of little shelves and bins and things that you can kind of stick and move wherever you want.
hmm,
So that way everything's kind of spread out because that's something that's super annoying about refrigerators that every refrigerator I've had, there's usually not enough small spaces for small stuff. And then you get this one big area that you can't really use. There's not enough shelves or something like that. It's like, or the shelf spans the entire width when it'd be nice to have
hmm,
one that only goes halfway or something like that, or more
yeah,
drawers, or maybe
yeah,
no drawers. Maybe that space in the bottom that's all curved. I don't hardly use the drawers for anything. I'd rather have like another shelf down there. But no, you're stuck to the drawers because the manufacturers built it that way. But what if
yeah,
I want the drawer at the top? That'd be cool.
yeah.
Like, yeah, it'd be so easy.
Huh.
I guess you could build something like 3D print something as a proof of concept of that.
Yeah.
See, but that
Huh.
that actually right there comes down to kind of what we're talking about like reducing essentially
Yeah.
is reducing waste. Like how much shit gets thrown away
Yeah.
because it's like lost in the back of a fridge or something like that,
Yeah.
or how many times you buy something because you don't think you have it and then you do. Like, oh wait, no, I've got two things of ketchup now. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So having something that's properly organized would be nice.
Oh, even when it comes to like jars and stuff, like what if you just brought your own jars and there were just like vats of fresh, I don't know, pickles or whatever. Not that pickles are good. Ugh. But I mean, like I'm just
Dill
thinking of
pickles.
something you put in a jar, like maybe you just go like fish out the pickles and put them in a jar and close it, and you don't need any preservatives or whatever. Like,
Well, actually, no, you're onto something there. With your modular design that you is like a
mhm,
carrier, right?
mhm,
You could take your container that you've cleaned out and whatnot,
mhm,
and then bring it to the store, and kind of like the bulk foods thing where you pull the handle and it comes out and
mhm,
by
mhm.
weight. Imagine there was something like that. So you have
Yeah.
bulk, so let's say pickles as your example. You bring the jar in, you just fill it up, and then there's a sealer that will vacuum seal that and fill it with nitrogen and do all the things it needs to do and close it back up again.
Mm,
So now you're basically like you just bought a brand new jar.
yeah.
Like that, that would be pretty sweet. Now, certain things probably couldn't work that way, but even a few things doing that would make a pretty big difference.
Oh yeah.
And glass, again, glass, it's like that stuff lasts forever. In fact, I think that
Mhm.
what I've heard is if you took like a glass bottle and you threw it into the woods somewhere, that the amount of time it takes that glass bottle to degrade in nature is like 1 million years.
Hmm.
So
That's pretty long.
that's a long time. Yeah. So it's like that's actually something to consider too. When you throw glass stuff in the garbage, think about that like that's going to be around for 1 million years potentially.
Hmm.
So
Damn.
and it could be reused, and that actually if the philosophy, the mindset of the consumer was that kind of what you're talking about, the bulk dispensing thing, then manufacturers would probably create standardized containers that are basically all the uniform sizes. You might have like a small, medium, and a large or something, but they're all kind of the same shape. um, and yeah, it would be super easy at that point.
Why then can't city dumps collect these fucking, like, if they're intact, glass jars, run them through a freaking autoclave so they're like totally clean,
Mm-hmm.
like nothing survives, and give them back to packaging plants or grocery stores, or
Well,
however, like, or make them freely available to people who just want to do their own jarring.
that's an option. Or even if there's a small charge, a reused glass
Mhm.
container would probably be cheaper than buying a new one.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Manufacturers, especially if there was a standard for dimensions,
Mhm.
manufacturers would buy like thousands of them at a time. Like, oh yeah, it's way cheaper to go to the city dump and order a pallet of these things than it is to go to some company that makes them new.
Beer
Like,
bottles too.
yeah, beer bottles. Yeah.
People make their own beer,
Mhm.
wine. They want bottles.
And they're not cheap when you buy them in
Yeah,
small quantities.
yeah.
So rather than expending a vast amount of resources to like melt it all down, why not just leave it intact?
God
And
damn. Why don't we just make like a Craigslist for recycling?
hmm,
Like, hey, I need 20 wine bottles.
mm-hmm.
Please contact me, like, and just let people kind of like trade or sell whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
not a
and
bad idea.
yeah,
Well, because yeah,
why doesn't that exist?
well, there's something similar that did exist. I don't know in Tacoma. I don't know if it still exists, but it's a site called Too Good to Toss, and it was
Hmm.
mostly revolving around commercial construction stuff. So you could go on there and look, and like say they were building something, and there's some leftover stuff. So instead of so you could find like lengths of chain link fence or something like that. So they're like, well, we can't use this. It's only like 20 feet, but it's still brand new. And maybe there's a couple of pieces of lumber or something that haven't been used, but what are they going to do with them? So you could list it on there. And so sometimes it was free. They just say, hey, here it is, just come and pick it up. Sometimes it costs a little bit of money, but it's like the average person could go on there and say, oh yeah, I'm building a chicken coop and I want like 20 feet of chain link fence. And oh, there it is, given away for free.
Every time I hear chain link fence now, I think about the German word for it, Maschendrahtzaun. and there's this like funny video from a German comedian where there was like a People's Court version, like a German version, and this lady was like bitching about her neighbor like putting up a chain link fence, but she couldn't pronounce the word very well, so she was like Maschendrahtzaun, and he like made this parody song of it. It was so anyway,
that's funny.
Stefan Raab, I think was his name. Yeah. Look that up. Maschendrahtzaun, if you can spell it.
That's your recommendation for the
That's
day.
my recommendation. Funny as hell.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've got a lot of interesting ideas here. But
yeah, this was a damn good episode. Like a lot of great ideas, actually.
God, we almost should catalog all this stuff.
We should be millionaires.
We should be. Definitely. But I'd like to hear other people's ideas too. I'm sure everybody has some idea to contribute, some thought or concern or whatever, different ways of doing things. That's really the only way things are ever going to change, is if everybody works together and puts all their heads together in a line and let the bullet go through.
Well, in the spirit of this episode, I think we should recycle a song we've already used.
Yes. That's a good idea. Yeah. Perfect. It would be even better if it was a song about recycling, which unfortunately we don't have, but that'd be perfect. Well, so I think that's a good ending point. And enjoy the song you've already heard before on the way out. Maybe we'll play it
if you're a super fan.
Yeah, exactly. It'll probably be new to everybody. But all right. Well, that's a good one.
KSM Challenge. Find the episode we used it in already.
Aha. Nice one.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, take it easy. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet and help each other and be good people.